I'm pretty new to the band White Widdow, so how did you guys form? How did the band come into being?
Basically, we formed in 2008. I just sort of had the idea to put together a melodic rock band that kind of had the style of the mid-1980s with all the bands that I loved, and there was no one really doing it in Australia, and if there was, I'd probably go see them and might not have even done it, but there wasn't, so I thought I was playing in a different band at the time, more of a hard rock band, and so I'd wanted to do it for a while, but I could never really find the right people. So one night when the guitarist that's in the band now, Enzo, he approached me, and our two previous bands had played a few shows together, and he said, "Oh, do you want to do something together?" And I said, "Well, I got this idea," and we sort of hit it off from there and got my brother involved, and it sort of went on from there as far as it's how initially it started. We just went out and started playing a few shows live. That was sort of the kickoff. So
how did you discover all the 80s rock and metal bands that you love and inspired you to make music?
I just really just searched them out, you know. Like, I mean, obviously a lot of the mainstream stuff that's out there was sort of obvious, you know, like the Bon Jovis and Foreigner and Survivor and stuff like that. It's not hard to become aware of that stuff, but you then sort of want more that sounds like that. And, you know, before the internet, it was sort of a case of, you know, I guess going into record stores that specialise that back in, you know, 10 years plus ago now. And really, like, since the internet, it's just made it super easy if you want to find, you know, either old stuff or new stuff that sounds in that style, because you can just literally type it in and look for it. But, you know, initially it was just a case of, really just going to specialty stores and just really sort of trying to hunt it down because I was hungry for more.
Yeah, I remember doing the same thing when I was young. I kind of miss those days. You go into a music store and you think, this band could be a bit like this other band, and I'll give them a go, and you take a chance.
Yeah, that magic's all gone now, you know?
Occasionally you take a chance on an album you weren't exactly sure, but you'd pay your $20 just for it, hoping that it'd be good.
Exactly, man. That's, you know, and that sort of mystery's all gone now, you know. It's just all on the internet to play it, you know, no effort and no research, just play it, I don't like it, see you later.
That's
you know,
it.
and it's, yeah, you know, it sort of takes away a lot of adventure and you know, I guess, real sort of, I guess, record collectors as such, you know, that's all kind of gone. So.
Yeah. It's kind of sad, too, because, you know, there was the occasional album that you spent your money on and you didn't really like, but you come back to it a couple of years later think, it's not that bad. It kind of grows on me because I've grown.
Exactly. And I think that's, you know, that's one of the beauties of owning, you know, albums and record collections and things like that, is that, you know, you always got them to go back to if you want to, you know, revisit something that you thought, I might just try it again, you know. But, yeah, we live in a different society now. It's all, you know, quick and easy, so...
Yeah, I don't think there's any going back. But, on the other hand, when I saw you guys at the Elephant and Wheelbarrow a few weeks ago, you got some very dedicated and passionate fans by just being in the audience. How do you think people find your music now?
How do they find it? Like, how do they locate it?
Yeah, how do you guys reach new fans?
Well, I mean, basically for us, our main market has always been the UK and Europe. It was, I guess, our immediate focus really when we put the band together. You know, we never really wanted anything except to just enjoy the music, but then, you know, as things progressed and we started writing songs and we felt they were good, you know, we basically just sort of took a demo to a melodic rock festival and shopped it around to the labels that were at the festival, and with some help from some of the magazines that had given us some press over there from the demo. And basically, like, you know, we met with a few of the labels and they were interested in signing us off the back of the 3-track demo, and then we've been with the same label now for 3 albums and just about to sign for another 2. And, you know, when our albums come out over in Europe and the UK, they all go straight into the mainstream record stores, which there's a lot more of over there. Wow. And, you know, our stuff's all advertised for the melodic rock market over there in all the magazines, and we're featured in articles and stuff. So obviously we get a lot more exposure over there than we do over here. We get really nothing. In Australia, basically, we're available on Spotify and iTunes, those sort of platforms. But as far as hard copies go, they still have to be imported from Europe, unless they bought from our shows or something like that. So I guess as far as how do we reach people in Australia, look, the best ways really are through social media, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. There's not a whole lot of platforms for us to sort of use to I guess, Be good if, we could get better opportunities to, play with the calibre of bands in Australia that we get to play with in Europe, but we just sort of can't seem to break down those doors, and it's been a little bit frustrating at times.
I'm sure.
But I guess we're happy for small mercies when we get to do what we do overseas. So
that's it. A lot of bands are taking the independent route and self-producing, self-financing, and you guys are going with the record label. What does being on a record label mean to you guys?
Well, it means it doesn't initially cost us anything. So basically, our albums are financed by the record label from beginning to end, and we obviously have a budget we have to work to, but it's money that we wouldn't have to come up with, and it is reasonably expensive to do it at a sonically sort of perfect level to be able to compete with music that was recorded for a lot more money back in the 1980s. So to try to capture that kind of sound, it's obviously something that we don't want to have to pay for if we don't have to. But I think the best part about it is the promotion and the distribution that comes automatically with being with a label that's already set up and ready to go and that believes in you. So you really sort of get the whole package all together, provided they're going to do what they say they're going to do. For us, they're specific to the style of music that we play, so they've really looked after us at every turn. And yeah, look, I think that it just gives you an ability to concentrate on making music instead of having to concentrate on making music and then how to sell your music and how to, finance it and how to get it back and all that sort of stuff. So it sort of relieves a little bit of pressure as far as that side of things go that you don't have to worry about organising.
You said before your main market is overseas. Do you get much radio play overseas?
Yeah, we do throughout the UK and I guess mostly probably Germany, Spain, a little bit in Greece, Sweden. So yeah, I guess in Italy, certain countries for sure. Yeah, it's it's everything from independent radio shows to some mainstream ones to right across the board, a lot of internet radio, especially in the UK. So yeah, there's quite a bit.
You think you guys should get played on Triple M over here?
I don't think so. No. I don't think they'd understand it. I don't think that they would get it. And I've never seen Triple M really play anything new. Quite simply, like I've always said, if Triple M won't play Airborne, why would they play any new band?
Exactly.
He's a band that is super well established, has a big following in Australia. Perfect. The sons of AC/DC, realistically, next to take the title, and I mean they could be championing that band much bigger than they are, but they're just choosing not to. Exactly. I think the biggest difficulty we have in Australia is that there's not many radio stations, and there never has been. For the population, it's completely out of kilter. Yeah. We should have 25, modern radio stations that have all different styles of genres and 4 or 5 different rock ones, but we don't. So, of course, what happens is everybody puts the pressure on one, and realistically they also, not to defend them, but they shouldn't have to be responsible for the whole country's promotion of rock music, but they are. Yeah. And, we expect them to play everything, and to a degree I can understand why they don't want to, but what we should have is other stations.
Yeah. That's something that's definitely missing, because if you go back through your history of music, there was so much diversity in mainstream. You could have a rock band and a funk band and some some pop, but it's just all the same stuff now.
Yeah, a lot of it is. I guess that we have radio stations for different types of music to a degree, but it's still, it's not as diverse as it once was, that's for sure. But, I think that in a way that's kind of good as far as a radio station goes, because its listeners sort of don't really want to stray too far of what they want. But, as far as what makes it into the top of the charts these days, you're right, it's just completely, sugar-coated television manufactured crap, really. And, that doesn't, bode well for the future of music at all.
Yeah, it is a bit depressing when you look at the mainstream. But I think there's bands all over the world springing up, and there's always going to be the dedicated fans. So I think it's healthy.
Yeah, look, I don't think it is, and I'll say this because I think that there's not enough people that understand how a musician makes music, sells music, and then has to try to make the money back of what it costs to make the music. And that also goes if you're on a record label. In fact, in most ways, it's even worse, because people are completely oblivious to the fact that they should buy music. And we're on the edge of, in the next 5 years, there's going to be a generation that has never paid for music in their life.
Yeah.
Ever. And when they come in, that's pretty much the end. Because basically, for a record label, they'll sign a band, they'll give you a chunk of money, and you go sell records. Then you've got to sell X amount of records before you've paid back your advance, and then after you've paid back your advance, then you make money. Now, if you don't sell enough records to pay back the advance or just above it, they won't let you make a second record.
Yeah.
Now, if everybody steals it, no one can pay back their advance, and they won't make a second record. And if they do, it'll be independent, they'll probably struggle, and they might only make one more. But the idea is, if people buy music, then people don't, these people can pay back who they're with, or they can afford to make a second record and this sort of thing. But basically what's going to happen is, I see it going down the future of almost just simply bands will record singles like they did in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And there'll be no more albums, it'll just be single songs, because that's all either the band can afford or the band's prepared to give away. Because we're going to end up in a really, really bad situation unless the public gets educated on the fact that people need to repay what it costs to make music.
Absolutely.
That's not even about making money. That's about paying back out of debt.
Yeah. What it costs to record and promote, manufacture, artwork.
Exactly. Even if we're just going straight to digital and there is no artwork and there is no manufacturing, it's just the recording costs, the mixing costs, the mastering, all of that goes in. And, when you're doing a record, it's for the better part of, even done on a budget, it's around 10,000 Australian dollars. And that's a lot of money to not be able to get anything back for if everyone steals it.
So when you're writing a song, are they from personal experiences or are they more observations about things around you?
A bit of both, I think. I think most of the time, if it's not from personal experience, it's you, I guess you try to use what you have experienced and maybe think about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, or, what it might feel like, or what the situation could be, or maybe you've watched a situation as a third person, so I think, most of the time, as far as certainly what I write, definitely it's from experience, or certainly watching something else unfold, yeah.
How would you say the band's developed since you guys started back in 2010?
Well, we started in 2008. The first album came out in 2010, but I think even from the 2010 period, I think the musicianship has improved, particularly in the new lineup with the new bass and drummer that we have. We've never been more technically proficient, so I think from that degree, it's definitely a much stronger live band as well. And obviously was a lot smoother and faster in the studio. And I think on top of that, as songwriters, I think myself and my brother have definitely gotten better as we've gotten through the third record. We certainly don't fight as much as we did through the first and second one. We're disagreeing with ideas. But no, I think we've just sort of honed our craft and we've gotten better at what we do. And I think really the only thing we ever really get accused of is not really branching outside of what sort of style we do. But I think the goal has always been to write the best songs in the style that we do. So we've never really sort of wanted to stray too far from the path that we do. But we'll see what happens down the future. What
sacrifices have been made as your career as a musician?
Well, I think, for us, for a period of time, certainly, a lot of us didn't keep, particularly regular jobs. We were, a lot of us were casual, so that we'd be able to take time off to go overseas and tour and all that sort of thing. And I think that, what goes then in hand with that is, you know, it affects relationships, it affects, you know, certain parts of your life. And, you know, being as any musician will chime in and tell you, you know, like, they usually put, you know, $5,000 worth of equipment into a $1,000 car. Yeah. So, you know, all your money goes into equipment or recording a demo or, you know, like buying merch or, you know, like it's always a priority over, you know, a new fridge or, you know, fixing your car and all these sorts of things. And, yeah, that's just sort of standard stuff that I think most musicians deal with. But as far as for us goes, you know, really it was just sort of a little bit of the job factor, I think, for a period of time, which I think we've kind of all worked around now and have sort of found our feet with how we can do it and still hold down regular jobs. So,
what advice would you give to a bunch of kids who are serious about making a go as a band?
Spend longer writing songs and less time trying to get straight up on stage and swing your arm around like Steel Panther. Because the reality is that when I go out and see a lot of these bands, you know, and look, I was probably guilty of it too when I started, but I wish somebody had told me that, you know, then, you know, that you can go out there and you can be the latest, hottest, cool band that's playing the Cherry Bar at the moment. But the thing is, if you don't have the songs, when those people leave that gig, they're not going to remember them. They're not really going to chase down getting a copy of them. But if maybe you'd spent another 6 months instead of rushing them through just to go out and play, maybe there would have been a different scenario and maybe it would have taken you further. So, because I think these bands get locked into a cycle where they've written their first 10 songs and they go out and play for a couple of years and they really only write 2 more through that period of time. They put out an EP and then they break up because nothing happened. You know, so I think just time on songs, I think song quality is really paramount. To me, it's everything. So
yeah, sound advice that all comes down to the songs.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because, you know, at the end of the day, like, that's what you're meant to be there about.
So you guys have a gig coming up at the Elephant and Wheelbarrow again on the 16th, I believe?
Yep, we do. We're playing with some old friends of ours that used to have a band in the late 80s, early 90s that have recently reformed and recorded an album. They're called Serpentine Sky, so it's their album launch and we're their special guests for the evening, so it should be fun.